And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Oh,
Oops.
nice page, Sammy. Tyler Carlson with us. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Good to see you again.
Great to see you.
Well, what's going on? I mean, and I tried leading off like that, and the whole thing that we're going to be talking about, ladies and gentlemen, is really, I have sat up here on numerous occasions and said, bull, to some of the things that come out in the press. And I think last we spoke on the show about this energy issue and the global warming, et cetera, and they're trying to shut down now all of the coal-fired plants in the state of Arizona. Am I correct?
That's correct.
And that's, to me, kind of scary, because right after I saw that, there were several articles that came out, not necessarily because of that, and people have said, you know, you've got volcanoes that have put more in the air in the last couple of centuries than we'll ever take out, more carbon dioxide in there. And I'm thinking, well, what are we doing? What is?
It's a great question.
Please tell me, Tyler, what's going on.
It's a great question, and I wish I knew what we were doing, because last time I was here, we talked about instead of reason and rational thought, where politics are running our energy policy. And most recently, in the last couple of weeks, the EPA came out with a proposed regulation, and that proposed regulation was really almost discriminatory. Arizona was hit really hard, and hit hard, as you say, with the eventual close down of all coal power plants. And it really absolutely makes no sense. We had a discussion at all the district meetings and the annual meeting, our annual meeting here a little over a week, 10 days ago. And it's hard to put any rationale or logic to it, but we have some information, and I'll eventually get to it and show you. But we're being asked to shut down 100% of the coal by a certain time frame. And what that means then is that you have to pick up and buy something else. You have to buy into something else. And while you do that, you've got to continue to pay on the asset that you're not able to use. So you've got to continue to pay on the asset you're not able to use, and then you've actually got to buy into another asset. And that means rates are going up. And we know in this area, rates going up affects all of us. It affects the rural communities hard, but it really affects the folks here that are on fixed income, senior citizens. There's a few of those in this area, and you know, it's really going to be difficult.
Well, I know I can say it, and I don't think you ever would, not publicly at least, but in my mind, by them trying to close all this down, I just see it's all a money issue. It's all because I know several of our vested politicians are involved in some type of renewable energy, and Arizona being a great place for, let's say, solar, wind, all of these things. By eliminating what power sources we do have today, they can go ahead and invest in that, and everybody can be wealthy except for the poor people who are out of work from the plants that are gone.
Well, you know, you bring up a good point. It's really hard for me to argue with it, but it certainly doesn't make a lot of sense, because there's not a lot of balance to that. And when we're talking about getting rid of coal, it seems interesting, but you know, and I'll show some slides here a little bit later on. But you know, over 50% of our power supply comes from coal. That means you dismantle, you get rid of a very inexpensive energy supply, and you replace it with a more expensive energy supply. That never is a recipe for rates to go down. That's a recipe for rates to go up. And we are also talking about coal, which is a natural resource. It's our natural resource. I think I heard the other day that we have over 200 years of coal resource that we could be utilizing. We talk about energy independence. We got 200 years worth of coal supply as we would presently use them. We could certainly let the plants that are built totally get utilized and go out of commission naturally. Get paid for and go out of commission naturally, rather than shut them down unnaturally. And it seems like that would be a lot better place to go. But Arizona got hit really hard with probably the second highest reduction in the United States. Texas was very high, but no one got hit as hard as Arizona did as far as the amount of reduction and a 100% reduction requirement. And you would think that being number 2 on that list, that we might be number 2 on the list of how much we produce or that type of thing. We're not. We're number 22 on the list in some ways, or we're right in the middle in others. So something is disproportionate here. Something just doesn't make sense at all. And I'm not sure what it is that we've done to the administration that they certainly don't like us here in Arizona. It certainly doesn't appear that they like us here in Arizona. But we are getting hit disproportionately, and it just doesn't make sense. I talked about it at our annual meeting that picture this: you built a house and you built it in accordance with code, and you built it as energy efficient or as clean as you could build it at the time, and you met all the code requirements. A number of years later, whatever government that was came by, local, state, federal government came by and said, you can't live there anymore because we think that there's a better idea. And you have to move out. Well, you took out a mortgage on that house. Most of us take out mortgages when we buy a house. And we say, well, what do we do with that existing mortgage on that coal plant or that house that you have? And they say, you got to keep paying that. Well, and where are we going to move? Well, are you going to move to a new house?
Right.
Who's going to pay for that? Well, you're going to pay for that too. So you're going to pay for the new house that we're going to make you move into. And by the way, you got to continue paying on the house that you're in. It really doesn't make any sense. And you think about it from the jobs perspective. Americans, there's people in the U.S. of A. who are mining coal, who are handling the coal, transporting the coal. All of that goes on, there's jobs there. It just doesn't seem to make a whole lot of sense to take that natural resource and make it, basically try to get rid of it as a fuel source. We should use all of our fuel sources, but use them wisely.
Without, appearing to be a hypocrite, which I have on occasion, I was very much in favor of doing something with Mohave Generating Station when it was here, because they just absolutely failed time and time again after request to add any additional scrubbers to clean their system up. And it was horrible in my opinion. And so in that regard, my stand was, clean it up or get it out. And they just didn't want to clean it up. They said it would be too costly, which was ironic for me to believe, because the first time they talked about scrubbers 20-some years ago was a $5 million add-on. Then all of a sudden it became a $250 million add-on, or whatever it was, some ridiculous number. And the primary concern was, the yellow carbon dioxide plume coming out of that, either going to the north or to the south, right over Bullhead City. It was horrible. But it seems that the one thing that got them out of here was the Sierra Club saying, you're putting smoke in the Grand Canyon.
Right.
What is the argument on the 3 remaining power plants that we have, the coal-fired? Are they considered unhealthful because they're going over huge populations? Are they putting out too much carbon dioxide, or are they smogging up somebody's view of a pine tree? What is it? Well,
it's not the smogging up. That's for sure. What it is a changing in the codes, changing in the rules is what it is.
Just in mind process.
Yeah, it's not anything more than that. I hear this issue about that we should be leading, and we should be leading in the world, and we already are leading. We already have the cleanest. And there's one thing about improving clean coal technologies, another thing about regulating them out of business. That's a whole different theory. And to go back to your the concept about the Mohave generating plant across the river, there were a number of issues. One of those was environmental, but the other one of those was fuel supply. And they both were operating at the same time. So they didn't close down for one or the other. It was a combination of both. And a lot of people aren't aware of that the fuel supply was one of the other issues that were going on with Mohave generating plant. But let's put it in the perspective of dealing with rural communities, because where are these plants? They're in rural communities.
Right.
They're not in downtown Phoenix. They're not in downtown Tucson. Or not many of them certainly aren't. But they're in the rural communities. And what was the impact to this community? That Mohave generating station had a huge impact. Yeah.
Huge.
We're talking about 300 jobs were lost, and those aren't just jobs. There were people. And there are people with families, people with children, people with spouses, people that shop locally here, schools that were here that were based upon that. So it was a huge impact. Some estimate $360 million impact, and I don't think that we've still recovered.
Right.
2005 it closed down. We have not recovered.
Right.
And that's the recipe for the future as far as folks in rural communities. One of the things that this rule does kind of do, because it is disproportionate, it affects rates disproportionately, meaning that if you have to close down more and you have to buy more alternative fuels, your rates will go up disproportionately.
Sure.
So they're kind of picking winners and losers. And when I say that, there are folks that folks whose rates will go up a lot because you have to shut down one of your cheapest power supplies. You have to compete for business. You have to compete for people. And so they're almost picking winners and losers in this future economy. And that just doesn't feel right either, is that you know, in this disproportionate effect. Let's see if I can get to them. You know, we're going to have to, our ability to track future business is going to be a real impact. If I can get to the, I think it's slide number 8, I think it is, because I'll kind of show you the information. And if you get to slide 8, there you go. And you get to this slide, you see Arizona at the very top, 24 million, and I don't want to get into all the numbers behind the 24 million.
Okay.
But if you look across to the right, the coal generation reduction due to natural gas redispatch, meaning that you have to buy into, or you have to buy, or you have to build new natural gas plants in order to displace all of that coal. Now take a look at that. All of those people with 100% reduction down to Massachusetts. Is anyone even close to the $24 million historical coal use generation?
I would say no.
Not even close.
No.
So there's a huge disproportionate impact that we're talking about. And then we'll look further here, because you see others like Texas. Texas has got a really big reduction too. They're very high.
Wow.
But it's 52%. But it's not 100% reduction.
Right.
Now we'll go down to look at Missouri and Pennsylvania at the bottom. A 10% reduction they're looking for, and they're at 3 times the historical coal generation that we were. We're at 24 million, they're at 72 million, 87 million. You keep on going, because it really makes less and less sense as you go on. Look at Kentucky.
Good grief. 84 million.
Yeah, if you go to the next slide, 10. If you go to slide 10, you'll see Kentucky at 84 million, over 3 times, and they have a 1% reduction. It really makes no sense at all. West Virginia, 70 million, which is almost 3 times what we put out, and look at their reduction, 0.
Good grief.
So it really doesn't make any sense. There's no logic or reason that's in play here. And what we need is folks' help. We need all of your help out there. We need folks to jump up and stand up about it. If you'll go to slide number 11, I'll point something out here in slide number 11. When the president ran, he ran on what's called all of the above energy strategy. All energy fuel sources are useful. That's nuclear, that's hydro, that's natural gas, that's all of them. If you take a look at that slide, coal is over 50%. Right. You're abandoning one of your largest fuel, and it's a natural resource. It's a resource in which we have here in the United States, and and people here in the United States are employed. Right. By that. We talk about technology gambles, the carbon capture and sequestration technology that they're talking about. You can go to slide 12 if you'd like. That doesn't exist. It's a hypothetical technology. It exists on a very small scale, but if you actually try to buy it today for the large scale, there's nobody that has that technology. So they're pushing you to technology that doesn't actually exist. It's not proven. And then you've got a Congressional Budget Office, our own government, is talking about that if we do these types of things, it'll increase 75% increase the cost of generating electricity. Now, if you're on fixed income, if you're retired or you're on fixed income, do you have 75% additional set away somewhere in that budget?
I don't think so.
I don't think so. I don't think most of us do.
I don't even have it now.
Yeah, if our bills go up, and we're employed and our bills go up, boy, you got to take a hit somewhere.
Absolutely.
And I think that's really difficult. And coal is our most energy
Page
used.
14, Sam.
Yeah. So now if we go to 14, and this is something I've talked about before, history repeats itself. All but one doesn't work.
Right.
In 1978, natural gas was taken away from us as a fuel to generate electricity, and Congress did that. And in their infinite wisdom, back in Washington, they decided that that's what should happen. They're essentially forcing co-ops and others to invest in coal-based or nuclear-based generation.
Right.
But you couldn't invest. And by the way, our coal plants down near Apache, down near the border, those coal plants were built in the late 70s, basically because of this. So now 9 years later, Congress repealed its mistake. They figured out that boy, that was a bad idea. So here we are, sitting here. We're going to do our most abundant resource and one of our least expensive resources, and we're gonna get rid of it. It just doesn't seem to make sense. And you know, when we constructed these plants, we did follow the law.
Right.
We followed the rules. We followed the law, just
Right.
like you would if you built a house.
Right.
You'd follow the codes. You'd follow all the rules and all the sightings and everything that you're supposed to do.
Sure.
And if the city council later said, oh, by the way, we're changing all the rules
After you built.
after you build it, you'd say, okay, that's all right as long as I'm grandfathered, right?
Right.
As long as I'm still allowed to live in my house.
Sure.
Now, if they said, no, you can't live in it anymore, you have to follow some new set of rules, you wouldn't stand for it, I don't think.
No, absolutely not.
And we're asking your help not to stand for it. Now, we support all of the above technology. We support all the fuel sources, and there should be a balance, a reasoned and a balanced approach to this, and it also should be a time-based approach, meaning that once you let those plants actually complete their useful life, payments all made before
Right.
you actually
Right.
legislate them out of it. Because eventually it'll happen. Eventually it'll happen. New technology comes on board, but don't artificially stop their life.
Right.
It just doesn't make any sense. And we need a reasoned approach that's phased in and affordable. We do support, and co-ops always support, the least cost issue, which is energy efficiency. Don't whatever you can not use, because
Right.
the cleanest and the cheapest kilowatt hour is the one you saved. You didn't pay for
Absolutely.
it, and I didn't have to generate it. So
Right.
that's really a main part of our focus. And we need folks' help. I'm going to go to slide number 18. We were back in Washington talking about this, and you eventually we'll see on slide 18. We were back. We were meeting with Congressman Gosar, and
Right.
Congressman Gosar is a supporter of us on this issue. He does understand that this is a bad road that we're on,
Right.
and we do appreciate meeting with him.
Okay.
And this is the kind of help that we're looking for. We have these, and it's actually up on the screen also on 19. But we have these. We need you to fill those out. Stop by. We have them at our Hancock office, our customer service office. Fill them out. We need to tell EPA and we need to tell Congress that we can't afford large increases. So we keep our bills affordable.
Now,
Have a reasoned approach here.
I want to take a real quick break and come back and talk more about this. But is this area the only one fighting this battle, or is this going on statewide? I mean, are there others that are up in arms about this?
Absolutely. There's all kinds of people up in arms
Okay.
around this, and there's all kinds of people all over the country up in arms
I
about
want
this.
to talk more about that. Why don't you stay right where you are? We'll be back with more of the morning show right after this. Tyler Carlson with us, CEO MEC, Mohave Electric Cooperative, for those of you who don't know. My question to Tyler just prior to going on is that, you know, obviously this is a gun pointed right at the head of Arizonans. There's no question about it. It's more than a gun. It's a shotgun, and it could be extremely destructive. Do you think this could be a part of Arizona's stand against some of the federal rules and regulations insofar as immigration is concerned and insofar as our governor's or Arizona's governor meeting the president on the tarmac that day. Do you think this is a payback in some sort? I know it'd be impossible to, but my gosh, what else?
Well, you know, paybacks, that type of stuff doesn't actually happen with a billboard. They don't actually indicate that that's what it is.
Sure.
And you know, EPA regulations, if they are politically motivated, they don't come with a disclaimer that says, by the way, don't ignore the science because it's politically motivated. So none of those things actually happen like that.
I know it was a redundant question,
but and they don't say that. But certainly Arizona seems to be
it's a target.
seems to be on the target, as does Texas. Those happen to be some fairly red states apparently. So.
Yeah.
Maybe that's part of the motivation. I don't know. That was brought up the other night at our annual meeting. And so was the shaking of the finger on the tarmac. That was brought up.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard for us to really understand because there's really not a lot of logic to it.
And nobody's answering any questions.
Well, you know, it's beginning. This is a proposed rule, and as a proposed rule, now is the time, and we have 60 to 120 days to comment. Now's the time to stand up and comment. Now's the time to stand up and say, you know, heck, no, we're not going to take this anymore, like a TV or a movie was many, many years ago. Is that it just it's time for us to stand up, and it isn't me standing up. It's all of us standing up.
Right.
Because it's not my voice that's gonna turn it. It's the cumulative voices, and it's all of our voices standing up. So we really need folks' help. And the reason why we need folks' help, because it's not just my bill that'll go up. I'm an MEC customer too. Mm-hmm. Not just my bill will go up because of this. Everyone's bill will go up if this actually happens. And so you're really fighting for yourself. You're really taking a stand for yourself. And it you know, the whole issue of being able to burn it cleanly. There are things that we can do. We continue to make improvements all the time on burning it clean, and we are leading the world in our clean production of coal power. If the rest of the world would catch up, maybe and maybe that's a focus the administration can take, is catching the rest of the world up, and maybe that would make an environmental change that they're looking for.
Boy, it's a tough one. It's got to be frustrating to have to deal with this. Number one. I mean, because it does seem so ludicrous, and here we are spending, you primarily, and so many of the managers of power companies all over the state are having to spend so much time to respond to something, and I'm going to say it, you don't have to, but I'm going to say it, as ignorant as this whole thing seems. It just, what a waste of time where we could be going towards something positive.
Well, you know, the time is one thing. It's the potential outcome. We're focused really hard on keeping rates as low as possible.
Sure.
And we think that's our charge, and we try to make sure that that's what's going on. And there are things that we can't control, but when we can, and when we can raise our voice, like in a situation like this, our job is to raise our voices and to say this is just not something that we're okay with. And we do have opportunities, and it's not just you're raising our voices here. Like we spelled out, and on our website we have places you can click, and you can find your way through that, and you can tell EPA the same thing.
Right.
But it's not just that, but there are some elections coming up too that we need to be focused on, because we need to tell folks what we think of where they're going and what direction that we're going. Are we supportive? Are we not supportive of this particular direction? Because I can tell you that there are folks in both Laughlin, Bullhead, Mohave Valley, Fort Mohave, Golden Valley. There's folks there that cannot afford an increase in their bills. They can barely afford their bills today, and it's this would be devastating.
Now, Salt River Project, they're kind of a powerhouse down in Phoenix, right?
That's correct.
They're the big boys. They're not a co-op. They're a power company. Am I correct?
Well, they are, but they are a public power company. So
okay.
so they're not investor owned. They are large, and they do have quite a bit of influence, and they are concerned about this too, because they have coal resources, and they will be impacted also by coal going away, without a doubt. But on the other side of that, they probably don't have energy portfolio isn't probably loaded as heavy as ours is in
Right.
coal. So maybe the impact might not be quite as big, but it's still going to be an impact. But there are other large entities like Central Arizona Water Conservation District, what's called the CAP, Central
Right.
Arizona Project, that brings water out of the Colorado River and gets it to Phoenix and Tucson. They're heavily vested into the Navajo power plant.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And their ability to bring that resource or that water into the state is highly dependent on the Navajo generating plant, and it's being relatively cost competitive. So they are at risk
Wow.
here too. So there's a lot at risk here that we're talking about. A lot of people do talk about Navajo because it's larger.
Right.
And we don't mind that, talking about Navajo, but we also got to keep reminding people,
Sure.
you know, we're very small, you know, and we are very small, and our coal units are very small in comparison. But we'd be heavily impacted, and it's the rural communities that are going to be impacted by this.
No one is going to escape this.
No.
No one will escape in this state, in the state of Arizona.
No, no
any
one will
increases,
escape.
or I mean, it's going to hit everybody.
The increases may not be as dramatic in some places as there are others, but no one really will escape.
Wow, that is just spooky. Have you got some other PowerPoints you want to show us?
Sure, certainly. Yeah, I'll get you to slide 20, which is our
Okay.
our web page. And on our web page, we have you can see it says Take Action Now. On the right-hand corner is action.coop. That's where you'll click. You can also click on. There's three things on the left. It says Stop Costly EPA Government Regulations. We actually have our Mohave Electric 2014 annual meeting slideshow. So if somebody wants to see all this data, it's right there.
Oh, excellent.
You don't have to. You don't have to ask us for it. You can go right through it. And then the lower left one is actually a YouTube video of my presentation at the annual meeting, which talks about this in a little more detail.
Very
so you
good.
can actually go through and pick through that. So you have options on our web page. But if you do click on the Tell EPA, this is what you'll come up with. And the one on the right is where you'll click. The one on the left is a national commercial that talks about this issue. So you asked me earlier about, is this a national issue? It
Right.
is. In fact, this commercial will be airing on your station very soon in the next few days. But there is access to that commercial right here on that website.
Okay.
If you click on the Tell EPA, you'll get to the next one. Good job, Sam. Which is Make Your Voice Heard Today. And then you put in your name and you put in all that stuff. And there's a little comment section. You can't quite see it, but if you scroll down, there's a little comment section at the bottom. Put in your comments. So we had folks with quite a few comments at the annual meeting, and they were addressing their comments to me.
Right.
That's interesting, but I'm not the one that had this idea. So you should probably address those comments to the folks who had this idea.
Okay.
And whatever your issues or your comments are, that's a good place to do it. So we have a number of ways to make your voice heard. You can do it right there on the website. As I said, you can stop by our office. We have these at any of the offices. All of our board members actually have these, and
Would you leave some of those here for me?
I'll get a whole bunch over to you.
That'd be great.
Over to you, and I appreciate the help, because that's what we need.
Yeah.
We need you to talk to your family, your parents, your spouse, your kids, your neighbors, whatever church that you go to, and talk about can we afford this big increase?
Right.
And if not, make mention of this, because this really has to be a grassroots effort. We all have to be part of this. Your voice is just as important as my voice. My voice doesn't is not any louder back at the EPA
Right.
than yours or your neighbors. As a matter of fact, yours voice probably is even better.
As a group, yeah.
As a group. And so if we can get all of us to be talking about it, and this is happening all throughout the state of Arizona, but as you saw in that commercial, and if you watch the commercial, and that's a little teaser because it's going to be on your TV here in the next few days, but you can see it on the website. But if you look at that, you'll see it's all of us in the United States are worried about not using one of our least expensive resources that's a natural resource.
Right.
And it really scares us that we would end up with a dependency on something else. We already have an ability to be independent on over 50% of our power supply, over 50% of our fuel, right here in the good old US of A, and we're going to try to take that away.
You know what I've noticed, Tyler, and it comes to really, irony has that, you know, it's going to take the people to go say something about this. It's going to, like you said, it's not just you, it's everybody that is. But I'm seeing more and more, there are more issues that the people have to get together on. Right now in Laughlin, we're even dealing with one on the school. And it's not one person that's going to have something to say. It's a community that needs to say something. In Arizona, it's a community as a whole, the state, that needs to say something. But it's going back to the people now. A lot of this is going back, and it is their decision if they want to prevail or not. And if they don't prevail, it's because they sat on their butts and sat home and did nothing about it and just let things happen. But this country is full of people that made things happen because they got out there and they did it, and that's what it's going to take with something like this, is these people getting out. Even in Mohave County, MEC customers, I don't care who you are, if you have the opportunity to fill that out and send it, your voice will be heard. Your voice will be one of many, and it makes a difference. It makes a hell of a difference, and it's up to us, ladies and gentlemen, to change this today. Otherwise, it's not going to change.
You got it. I couldn't have said it any better. He said, I wish you were at my annual meeting. I could have pointed to you and you could have said that, but you're exactly right.
He was at your annual meeting.
Huh?
You were at the annual meeting.
I was?
Yeah, you made an appearance.
Oh, okay.
That's right. And this is the last slide, and this is ironic. It's slide 23, and this is ironic that this is the slide of our illustrious leader chopping down the smokestack of a coal fire plant, and those are jobs.
Yeah. Yeah.
And do we need to be losing jobs in the economy that we're existing in today? Is that the right thought process?
You know, if the power plants have done everything they can to keep it as clean as they absolutely can and provide the least expensive power they possibly can, because it will impact every cotton picking thing we do. Everything we buy, everything we use will be impacted by an additional price because they're taking that away.
Without a doubt.
Well, that just sucks. But basically, it just sucks. I'm sorry, but it just.
Well, the last couple times I had come with good news. We had made some, you know, we gave money back to our members because we're a co-op, and we have been able to reduce our fuel cost a couple of times. So we had some good news.
Right.
This time we're not really here with good news, but we're here with a rallying call. It's a call to arms.
Absolutely.
And certainly, it's something that we ought to be just as rallying around as anything else. And it's not as if we independently, we power companies, any of us, whether we're investor owned or whether we're co-op owned or public power owned like SRP, none of us can actually stop this ourselves or adjust it ourselves. It's going to take you, and it's going to take folks with their interest. You either are going to be interested in, and you say you can afford an increase, or you're going to have to say, I can't, and I don't want an increase, and why don't we just let time go on and clean it up as well as you can, and we're doing a great job from a world perspective of our coal production and clean coal. And there maybe are some out there that need to be cleaned up some more. I get that, but shutting them down just for the sake of shutting them down just doesn't make sense, especially when there's useful life left and there are you're still paying on them.
There's a lot of jobs tied to those.
Oh, and there's a lot of jobs.
The trickle-down effect is horrific.
Absolutely.
Something like that. Well, I can't tell you how much I appreciate you being in here today, and certainly we invite everybody to get busy. It doesn't take that long to fill one of those out. You can do it online. You can get it done, and you can do it from the comfort of your home if you so desire. But I really do suggest, ladies and gentlemen, we take a lot of this country back, and to do that, you need to get out there and get it done.
And if you get enough of these, let's say I drop a bunch off of you,
okay,
and then you call me on Thursday and say, hey, I got 10 or 25 or 50, I'll come pick them up.
Fantastic.
And then we'll send them in for you. But you know, we'll help you from that perspective. But
thank you.
Help, you know, please help you help yourself.
There you go. Tyler, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Really appreciate you. Come back and see us.
Absolutely.
Let us know how this fight's going. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. That's your homework for this week. Get her done, as they say, and we do hope that you can participate and do something just by signing your name